So we had some questions from some of our viewers regarding
Awesome.
tax-free accounts, tax-free savings.
Sure.
What are the pros and cons, both doing it for a child and doing it for yourself?
Okay. All right. So before we get into the pros and cons, I think the understanding of a tax-free savings account or tax-free plan needs to be better understood.
Okay.
Most people see the word tax-free and they go, this is the best investment product in the world. It's a great product, don't get me wrong. It's a great option, it's a great structure. However, we must understand that we're only allowed to put a maximum of 36,000 Rand per annum. Okay. The other limitation is we're only allowed to put 500,000 Rand into it over a lifetime.
Okay.
Okay. So if you look at that 36,000 Rand per year, it's going to take a good 15, 16, 17 years to reach
That 500,000.
that number. Okay. Now, we've put our 500,000 Rand in over the years. We now start to draw out for whatever reason. We can no longer put into that. We're not reducing our 500,000 that we put in. We can't say, okay, I've taken out 50, now I can put another 50 in. No. Once you put your 500, it's done.
Okay.
Okay. You'll get growth on that. All the growth is tax-free.
Okay.
That's where the word tax-free comes from.
Only the growth.
The growth is tax-free.
Okay.
The contributions aren't tax deductible, nothing like that. So when I put my 3,000 Rand in there and it grows to 5,000 Rand, that 2,000 Rand, I'm not taxed on.
But the 3,000, you are.
No, I'm not taxed on that.
All of it.
That's money that's come into my bank account after tax from my salary or from my earnings, however I've got the money. Okay. I've paid tax on that already.
Okay.
That's how it's now net. It's in my bank account. So it's not a gross number, not a big number. It's the small number after SARS has put their hands on it. Okay.
Yeah.
So I've got my 3,000 Rand.
Okay.
I put it into this investment account. It's tax-free savings plan. That grows to, let's say 5,000. That growth, there's no tax. I don't pay any tax on it whatsoever for life.
Okay.
You talked about the 5,000, sorry, the 500,000 limit. Okay. So let's say as I'm going, I'm putting my 36, and then I go and say, well, I've got 200,000 Rand in here. I put in 100,000. It's grown up to 200. But I want that car. I then go and draw out 100,000 and buy the car. I'm only now allowed to still only put another 400,000 in there. Because I've already put 100 in.
100, yeah.
And I've drawn out that 100. I can't go and re-put that 100 in.
Yeah.
It's done.
Okay.
Okay, so a tax-free savings plan is a long-term investment. If you're using it in the short term to pull in and pull out, you're defeating the purpose of it completely.
Yeah.
There you rather just use a savings plan or unit trust.
Okay.
Simple, no flavor, nothing. Just done plain white vanilla. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say now you're talking about taking out a tax-free savings plan for your child. Okay. The big benefit there is the term. This child's got a long future ahead of them. Okay, so we can take advantage of compound interest. Okay, there's a famous investor that we all probably know, Warren Buffett. He's one of the richest men in the world, and his entire strategy is about compound interest. He calls it one of the wonders of the world. And compound interest is essentially investment growth, interest growth upon interest growth. Okay, and that just it sort of rolls over like a snowball effect. Okay, and with a tax-free savings plan now, all of that interest growth, there's no tax on that growth. Okay, so now you've got a child. Let's say you're in a fortunate position to afford to put 3,000 Rand a month away for that child from birth.
Okay.
Or from as close to birth as possible. Once you've got the tax number,
the
ID, the bank accounts, and everything, which we touched on already. You build it up. By that time that child's an adult, that 500,000 has been paid in, done. If that child now understands, or that 18, 20-year-old now understands that this is a long-term investment, it's not something for today.
And you just leave it there.
Just leave it there. Just let it do its thing. Make sure it's in a decent fund, which you would have done, you took it out in the beginning.
Yeah.
Something aggressive, something that's got a long-term horizon. When that child needs to retire, I haven't done all the calculations specifically for any individual, but I've done it a few times for certain scenarios. The chance of that person, that child, not retiring comfortably just because of those first 18 years, maximizing a tax-free savings account, is almost zero. That person is going to have lavish retirement just because they waited
All that
and
period.
left it there and let compound interest do its thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you are fortunate enough to be in a position to put money away for your child, and you can afford to pay for school fees without dipping into that money, tax-free savings plan is going to set your child up for life. The big factor to consider here is that child, when the child turns 18 and can now draw that money out if they want, they need to understand why they should not draw that money out. Okay. Unfortunately, sometimes circumstances mean that money is required, but it needs to be really from as young as possible.
Education.
Educate the next generation that the reason why we're doing this is for your future, so you don't have to save for retirement.
Yeah.
So imagine if we didn't have to save for retirement every month. Let's say you're putting 1,000 or 2,000 rand away to retirement. Let's say that's the number you're doing, 2,000. Now you've got that 2,000 that you
To
can
do
then
other things.
use to grow where you are now. Educate yourself, have some fun, whatever it may be, because you know your retirement's looked
It's
after.
sorted.
I mean, and you didn't actually do anything for it.
Your parents
would be a
did.
great thing.
It would have been wonderful. We don't have that. We're not in that position.
Of course not, yeah.
But fortunately, with this education, we can do it for our children.
I
and
think
put
that's
them
the
there.
beauty of the world that we live in today, is that we can sit here, us together, and get this message out to however many people. Our parents' generation,
Couldn't.
that message had to be via CCC,
Yeah.
send a letter, phone someone, go and see someone. And we're in a position now where if you don't understand this, it's your own fault. It's because you're ignorant.
Yeah,
In all honesty. And
because-
that may sound harsh, but it's the truth.
Yeah, it is, because information is available via research, YouTube videos like this,
Yes.
Instagram, your
Of course.
channel,
Yeah.
your Instagram handle, which we'll leave down. So check him out.
Yeah, I don't post as much as I should, but I try and get information out there on a regular basis. And I think the whole thing about that entire pathway that we went on when we first started it was not to make sales from it. Let people who see this understand more about where their money is going, why they're putting money in a certain place. And I think that's so vital. I mean, when I buy something, I want to know what value I'm getting.
Yeah, yeah.
And the more we understand that, just the better financial decisions we can make for our long-term future.
Yeah, and we're going to touch on that later about savings. To say most of the time, yes, we are encouraged to say save as soon as you start working or getting pocket money, save. But we are not really educated to say, why am I saving? And because we lack that why, it's easy for you to come and eat out of that those
like
savings.
the piggy bank, we break it every year and take it out.
Yeah, because you don't know why you're
You don't know
saving,
what we're
really.
doing.
Yeah. Now, we spoke about tax-free, the benefits for a
Sure.
child.
Yes.
What about an adult?
Well, so the adult is in the same position as a child, just they're older.
Yeah.
Okay, so a child has got a long
Period.
Yeah.
So
to
more
let this
growth.
compound growth
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
An adult has got less time, but the same concept applies.
Yeah.
It's that now we don't want to be dipping into it. It's not a transactional account. It's not something you use to take in and out. You put it in, you leave it there, you let it grow. Okay. Some considerations when choosing a tax-free savings account is what risk appetite do you have? If you're super conservative, understand you're not going to see the real benefits of it. Okay, you're not going to see real growth. When I say real growth, I'm talking about what inflation is and getting growth above that.
That inflation.
Okay. If you don't have real growth, your money's actually losing value.
Okay.
Okay. It's worth, your 3,000 Rand today is worth less than 3,000 Rand next year. Even though it's still 3,000 Rand, you can't
But what
buy
you
the
can
same
do
amount.
with it.
What does a cool drink cost today? 10 Rand. Next year, maybe it's going to cost 11 Rand. If I've still only got the 10 Rand, I can't buy
Then
the
you
cool
can't
drink
buy
anymore.
it anymore.
Okay, so we understand what real growth needs to be. It needs to be worth more than that amount.
Yeah.
With that considered, you've got the right fund. You happy that the fund you've chosen is with your risk appetite and with your horizon in terms of long-term growth. You've now got to consider what fees are there. And most people say, well, I don't know what the fees are. How much I know? It's required for every tax-free savings account to disclose what the fees are.
Okay.
Okay, it's called an effective annual cost. Okay, so you've got investment management, you've got admin fees, and you've got advice fee. Okay, those fees essentially are eroding into your growth. Okay, they're necessary erosion.
Yeah.
Okay, you do have some accounts which have zero fees to a point. Okay, but then there's other limitations to it. Okay, so just because you've got a half fee doesn't mean it's a bad product. That high fee could mean that you're getting fantastic returns.
Okay.
So say your fees are 4%, but your returns are 20%.
Then
You're getting 16% return. It's okay.
yeah.
As opposed to something with 10% returns and 0 fees, you're only getting 10% return.
Yeah.
So I'm actually quite happy to pay that larger cost
Yeah.
because I know I'm going to get a higher net return.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're chasing that. We're chasing that growth. And as an adult, we've got less time than a child, but we've still got time. You're 30, 35, 40,
You still have
and you're retiring at 65. You can still maximize on it. And yeah, hopefully you've got some retirement plan in place. Use that first, draw down from that, and then use a tax-free later.
yeah.
So in all honesty, it's about being in there for as long as possible.
Time. Yeah.
Even if you can only start with 500 or 200 a month in the beginning, start with something, Sure.
Okay. Thank you. Are we moving now to savings and
Okay.
investment?
Savings versus investment.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's one of the questions we received to say, what is better, savings, investment? What would you
Sure.
say?